the Fairfax County History Commission. And as we launch this meeting, since it is wholly electronic and it is the 1st of February, 2023, by the way, tomorrow is Groundhog Day. We're going to launch it with our typical script that you all are used to. All right. So here we go. To launch and conduct this meeting wholly electronically, the History Commission needs to make certain findings for the record to evidence our compliance with all applicable laws. These motions address that compliance. First, I'm going to conduct a roll call and ask each board member participating in this meeting to state your name and your location. I ask each of you pay close attention to ensure you can hear each of your colleagues. All right, so I'll begin. Lynn Garvey Hodge, Springfield District, and I'm the chair in at large. So I'm going to go across my, I'm going to call out names because I cannot see all of you. David Meyer, are you here? Not sure about David. Okay, Tammy.
Tammy Manarino, Mount Vernon District.
Okay. Esther.
Esther McCullough, Sully District.
Okay. Ann Barnes.
Ann Barnes, Mount Vernon District.
Okay. Tom Shoup.
Tom Shoup, Braddock District.
Okay. Kevin Bradley.
Kevin Bradley, Braddock District.
All right. Gretchen is not here. Janae.
Janae Linder, Springfield District.
Okay. Sue Kovacs-Schumann.
Sue Kovacs-Schumann, Providence District.
Okay. And we know Steve's here. Steve Sherman.
Steve Sherman in Franconia District.
Okay. Ann Stuntz.
Ann Stuntz, Hunter Mill.
All right. Jordan.
Jordan Tannenbaum, Springfield District, 1 block from Janae Lindner.
Uh-oh, you got that part of the county covered then, I guess. Wonderful. All right, Carol. Carol Herrick.
Carol Herrick, Drainsville District, several blocks from Jordan.
Yeah, like you got to get your car and stuff, right? Right. Okay, Sally Lyons.
Sally Lyons in Colchester, Mount Vernon District.
Wonderful. And Cheryl Ann Rapetti. Cheryl, Cheryl, we saw her. I know we saw her. Let me see. Is she still on the list here, guys?
She even spoke when you were talking about the house on Georgetown Pike.
Exactly. Oh, here's Seymour. Maybe she went out and came back in again. Maybe she's on the phone. I do not see her listed here.
No, I don't see her.
Cheryl?
Keep an ear out.
Okay.
Lynn, when I look at the end of the list, it says Rapetti Cheryl Ann request to join.
I'm going to have to let Laura take care of that. That means she's probably in a waiting room.
Yeah.
And then we have, it looks like 2 guests, a gentleman named Tom and a Vance Sabella. Are these the folks you were telling me about, Tammy?
Yes, that's correct. They're here to listen in on the Fort Belvoir conversation.
Okay. All right. Wonderful.
John Moeller is on too.
There you go.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, that's great.
Lynn, you missed me.
Hi, John.
I had a hard time hearing Sue. Her voice was low.
Okay, you're having a hard time hearing Sue. Okay, Sue, you want to check in again and make sure we hear you?
Yeah, Sue Kovacs-Schumann, Providence District. Do you not hear me now?
Is that better, Esther?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Subi, I know you're here because I saw your picture, but you're off my screen right now.
Subi Medi, McLean, Drainsville District.
Wonderful. And then we also have a Peggy Tadej. Yes. And Peggy, are you visiting with us today?
Peggy is also, she's actually the director to listen about our comments about Fort Belvoir.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
It
right.
took me a while to get on, but thanks, Janae.
Thank you. All right. So
Welcome.
now I know this. Now I do need to ask Laura, will I have a list of everything that's on here, or do I need to jot all this down? The two guests, the three guests that we have.
Elliot should get those.
Okay. Then I don't see Elliot on here. Do you guys see him?
Oh, that's important.
Elliot's under the Meyer name, is he not? Is he not?
Yep. I'm here,
What's up, Elliot?
everyone.
Okay, Elliot, you want to tell us where you are, please?
I am in Arlington County, just over the line with Fairfax. I promise. I'm only a block away. So.
Okay. Great. We're all kind of a block away, actually. We're all in the next room is what we are. Okay, so Elliot, do I need to worry about attendance, or are you grabbing that?
I can record that. That's no problem.
If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, because I'm not sure I got it 100% perfect from last month. All right. Excuse me. So
if we could just double check then the two numbers that are there, as well as any guests, if they don't mind just stating their names and where they're from.
Who they are. Yes, we've got a couple of other people that are listening in. We've got a 703 number, or that may be Steve Sherman.
Yeah, that's me, Steve Sherman.
Oh, okay. All right.
302. Okay.
Okay, and then who's the 15 number?
I believe that's Dr. John Mahler.
Is that okay? John, is that you?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, all right. You're Silly Lions, buddy. Okay, perfect. I think that's everyone, right? Do you see anybody?
And
having
Lynn, I
time?
have, Lynn, this is Liz. I have two guests who I'll be introducing when I do my report.
Fine. Okay. Do you see them here yet?
Yes, they are.
Okay, great.
Linda, I
Oh, we
don't know.
got like a packed house tonight. If we
Lynn?
were in person.
Lynn?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't, can the guests, as Elliot requested, introduce, give their affiliation?
All right.
So
Well, I
we
thought Liz was going to do that.
Is Tom also her guest? Or the
Yes.
John?
Tom is Tammy's guest.
Tom is Tammy's guest.
As
All right.
well as Peggy. Peggy is also
They're here
Okay.
for the Fort Belvoir
for the
conversation.
Fort Belvoir discussion. They're with
Yeah.
the military partnership.
Okay, great. And then
Who is
John.
Laura Grape?
Laura Grape is the division director for the Resource Management Division of the Park Authority, and I was going to introduce her and Kelsey Atwood, who is our Museum and Archaeological Collections manager. I was going to introduce both of them when it's my presentation.
Okay. So
I
everybody.
think the clerk is just trying to get the attendance.
Yeah.
Elliot,
wanted
if you
to
need
add
me
to
to write
that.
that down, I can do that in the chat.
I've got everyone recorded. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
you,
so-
Elliot.
Thank you.
All right, we're good to move on here. All right, at this point, I'm going to pass the virtual gavel over to my pal Esther for the record. And I move that the History Commission certify for the record that each member's voice may be adequately heard by each other member of the board. We need a second.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll
It's
third.
been moved and properly second. So is there a discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those that oppose say nay. Motion carries.
All right, wonderful. Secondly, I move the History Commission certify that the state of emergency caused by the COVID-19 pandemic makes it unsafe for this commission and the public to physically attend this meeting in person, and the usual procedures cannot be implemented safely or practically. As a result, I further move that the Fairfax County History Commission conduct this meeting electronically through a dedicated video and audio conferencing line, and that the public may access this line by calling. And I do need your help, Laura, with these numbers. So what is the first phone number? I think it's a 571 number.
Sure. Give me 1 second here. It is.
No, I'm talking to Laura Kviklis.
Oh, do I not? Am I muted? Hang on. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. Hang on.
I have it if you need it.
You're
It's at
back.
the top of the agenda.
Oh, duh.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay. Do you want me to read it, Lynn?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. It's 1-571-429-5982. And then I guess the call-in or the meeting ID is 993-767-333 #.
Okay, yeah, I do have it. It's really very faint on my copy, so thanks for helping us out with that, Laura. Okay, finally, I
Our
moved.
motion,
What's that?
was that our
Okay.
motion?
I got stuck. Yeah,
Yes,
that was
I
my-
second
I
the
need a
motion.
second. We need a second on that. Yeah.
I'll
That's good.
second, Tammy.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed say nay. Motion carries.
All right.
Move
And
on.
finally, I move that the History Commission certify that the matters on its agenda today relate to the COVID-19 emergency itself, are necessary for continuity in Fairfax County government, and are statutorily required or necessary to continue operations in the discharge of the History Commission's lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities. I need a second, please.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed say nay. Motion carries. And here's your gavel.
All right, I was missing that. All right, thank you, Esther. I appreciate that. Got it back. I said on the agenda that I wanted to check in with you about a few thoughts. Most of you were pretty good about responding to the questions about start time and venue. And I put together a little matrix with how different people voted, but I'm just going to give you kind of the summaries here. For start time at 6:30, 7 of you were all right with that. Start time at 7, 10 of you were okay with that. Start time at 7:30 came in at 12. Virtual, 14. On site, 4. Variations throughout the year was 9, and hybrid was 9. So it looks to me, folks, that a 7:30 start time and a virtual is what you all would prefer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
have a
and
question. I have a question. So
yeah, super.
apparently the state of emergency is going to be removed. So would that affect any decision we make tonight?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, we are in a definite formal legal meeting right now, Subi. If you're wondering about the future, from what I understand, and this is having talked to Laura and to Denise, is it looks like for the near term, we are going to be meeting virtual. As an aside, and this is not too much county protocol, but just information I've gleaned from my business practice in my world, Zoom has done a lot of research about what the American public prefers today between WFH. Some of you understand what that acronym means. It's work from home, WFH. And most people in the business world today prefer to have, at least on some days, a Zoom kind of meeting or a Teams kind of meeting. So in terms of their work day. So I think that the universe will help dictate for us, Subi, how this gets handled in the future. And I'm not so sure, this is just personally, I'm not so sure we're completely out of the woods in terms of real serious flu and any resurgence of COVID. So I don't know. I probably gave you more information than you were looking for. What else would you like to know?
No, I mean, the federal government announced today that they're lifting the state of emergency in May. So I was
Yes,
wondering.
and I know that requests had been made, and I know Biden was moving in that direction. I've not yet heard a direct correlation with that in virtual meetings yet. So, when
So
we do,
if I could interject,
sure.
The county has its own state of emergency, which is different from the federal government. So whether the county will follow suit is another question. And Laura can confirm that for me, I think. Yeah.
Yes. So we haven't heard anything that you're correct. They are two different, but we haven't heard anything that Fairfax County is actually going to lift anytime soon. If it were to lift, the document you all voted on and signed 3 months ago is your virtual meeting policy that stands with the county right now. So what that policy said is you're allowed to have virtual meetings, but you're not allowed to have every meeting a virtual meeting, and it can't be 2 consecutive virtual meetings in a row. That also pertains to your committee meetings. So I will find it and I will resend it for all of you to check out one more time, just to freshen your memory. Yep.
But we are not at that point right now.
No. We are still very much in a state of emergency.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I just got a text here from David. Hang on a second. Maybe he's trying to get in. Okay, Laura, maybe you could work with David Meyer. He says, I've not been able to log on. I called the voice only number and have been waiting for someone to let me in using the voice only option.
Okay, I will.
If you want to check on that, that'd be great. Okay, thanks for the question, Subi. I think that's something we all need to stay on top of. Okay, I met with Denise and I met with Laura. Holly, was it just yesterday? About how we're going to proceed. And one of the things that that the county has made the transition to using Microsoft and to host meetings is that we need to have a staff person at the beginning to kick us off. Now, committee meetings are not recorded. Tonight's meeting is recorded. And it's an official formal meeting of the actual commission, not the committees. Excuse me. So the committees can still continue to meet virtually. Just know we will only have a staff person on board to help kick off the meeting and make sure everybody is settled in, and then we'll likely lose them. So the one caveat that we're abiding by is if for some reason that there were someone from the public that might come in and be untoward to any of our discussions, that then the chair has the responsibility to just simply politely close down the meeting. So I am counting on that not even being a possibility. All right. Any other questions about that? All right, you all saw the rules for virtual meetings that I sent out this week. I think I sent it out again with one of the packets this evening. And thank you for abiding with us in spite of the difficulty with the share file. We hope you've got everything that you need to have to stay on track with tonight's meeting. So please read over the Roberts rules for virtual meetings. There's really not a whole lot of new information there. But I think the courtesy and professionalism is always appropriate for all of us. And in this kind of environment, look at how many people we have in this room tonight. We are not always going to agree or see things exactly the same way. So what I would encourage you to do, if you've ever got... Hi, David. David, you're here?
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Okay. I think Laura's trying to take care of that.
Poor David.
We'll get him in. We'll get him in somehow. Anyway, my point is, and I think we all know this, is that with this many people, we're all going to not always be on the same page in terms of our perspective of things. We may not always agree. And so the piece on courtesy and professionalism here, I think, is something to always abide by. If you have something that you strongly disagree with somebody, what my preference would be as your chair is that you go directly to that person. What were you thinking? What were you, what was your plan? What was your approach? And just ask some, well thought out questions, because I think a lot of confusion and a lot of what can sometimes escalate unnecessarily into challenging situations can be part of that. As part of that, also want to remind everybody about FOIA. I'm really trying to be pretty diligent about that. I know I've had my slips and just gone ahead and sent out an email in the past, so do be careful of that. We have a Commonwealth attorney right now who's under tremendous review for FOIA violation, so that tells me that we need to be extra cautious if that kind of scrutiny is happening right now. And then also want to, again, because this is African American History Month and we are celebrating African American history, want to remind everybody of our Fairfax One, Celebrate One Fairfax, that we honor and respect everyone that we get a chance to work with. Since this is African American History Month, I did want to begin with a proclamation that Barack Obama used in 2013. So basically 10 years ago now. And it was his proclamation for making February African American Month. And I think I'm going to ask you, just take a deep breath, sit back, just listen to these words. They're inspiring. Were very inspiring for me today, and certainly a part of our overall American history. And we already know how diverse our history is here in Fairfax County. These are the words of Barack Obama, President Obama. In America, we share a dream that lies at the heart of our founding, that no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter how modest your beginnings or the circumstances of your birth, you can make it if you try. Yet for many and for much of our nation's history, that dream has gone unfulfilled. African Americans, it was a dream denied until 150 years ago when a great emancipator called for the end of slavery. It was a dream deferred. It was a dream deferred less than 50 years ago when a preacher spoke of justice and brotherhood from Lincoln's memorial. This dream of equality and fairness has never come easily, but has always been sustained by the belief that in America, change is possible. Today, because of that hope, coupled with the hard and painstaking labor of Americans, sung and unsung, we live in a moment when the dream of equal opportunity is within reach for people of every color and creed. National African American History Month is a time to tell the stories of those who helped raise the pillars of democracy, even when the halls they built were not theirs to occupy. We trace generations of African Americans, free and slave, who risked everything to realize their God-given rights. We listen to the echoes of speeches and struggle that made our nation stronger, and we hear again the thousands who sat in, stood up, and called out for equal treatment under the law. And we see yesterday's visionaries in tomorrow's leaders, reminding us that while we have yet to reach the mountaintop, we cannot stop climbing. Today, Dr. King, President Lincoln, and other shapers of our American story proudly watch over our National Mall. But as we memorialize their extraordinary acts and statues in stone, let us not lose sight of the enduring truth that they were citizens first. They spoke and marched and toiled and trembled shoulder to shoulder with ordinary people who burned with the same hope for a brighter day. That legacy is shared. That spirit is American. So let us honor those who came before by striving toward their example. And let us follow in their footsteps toward the better future that is ours to claim. Now, therefore, Barack Obama, President of the United States, by virtue of the authority invested in me by the Constitution and laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim February 2013 as National African American History Month. And I call upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of the United States to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand this 31st day of January in the year of our Lord 2013, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 237th. I'm also happy to announce for you tonight that we have a new commissioner. I've been able to share some of my joy around all of this with a few of you here today because we've shared other phone conversations. So let me take a few minutes to tell you about our newest commissioner. Her name is Julianne Mueller, and ironically, she is a neighbor of our Naomi 7. She also lives in Lake Barcroft in Falls Church. She did send on to me a short bio, which I will share with you. She had plans for tonight. She was not aware that there was a meeting tonight, so we will meet her officially in March. And she can introduce herself a little bit more. She's got some amazing skills. She's educated in historic preservation and architectural preservation. She has done oral histories. She has helped preserve a one-room schoolhouse. She's worked for the Montgomery County Park Authority. She has lived in Fairfax County for almost 30 years. She's got a certificate in conflict resolution from George Mason University and works in mediation and facilitation. She, in her private life, also teaches some private consulting in the DC area and doing work nationwide, where she got to go on military bases and help them decide what buildings had historic recognition in terms of their time and place, and which ones could in fact be raised. Let's see. Oh, she also has a lot of experience in Section 106. So Jordan, I know you would appreciate that. Anyway, her volunteer activities range from being president of the DC Preservation League and to being a classroom mom and to currently being a very active member of RAFT, which stands for Resettling Afghan Families Together. And a short sidebar story to that, I asked about RAFT. I'm embarrassed to say I had not heard about it. It was not mentioned in the book, A Nation of Nations, that I've just finished reading. And it stands for Resettling Afghan Families Together. And at the beginning of this organization, this group was seeking out 10 apartments that needed to be furnished, linens provided, food storage, eating utensils, dishes, plates, and so forth. And this group pulled together and created 10 such apartments for some of the Afghan refugees from some years ago to settle in. Since that time, RAFT has had just an amazing and engaging success story. To date, they have filled out 300 similar apartments. So you'll get to meet Julianne next month. I've connected her with Tammy and with Chris because she's interested in being in that reading group, and connected her with Naomi and also another historian in the Springfield district. So please, next month, join me in welcoming Julianne Mueller. We do have a fourth commissioner in the wings. It is not official yet, so I'm not really at liberty to share his name. All right, with that, Elliot, do you want to take the floor about the minutes? You're presenting the minutes. Anything else we need to know?
No, I just wanted to double check if anyone had any further questions about the minutes. Otherwise, I believe the minutes were provided in the share folder for everyone's review, and I really appreciate everyone's attention to detail every month.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. And what I would do, I do want to make sure that the attendance last month is accurate, because I did not keep track of it. That's why I made such a big deal about it tonight. So if something is askew there, this would be the time to let Elliot know. All right, so we need a motion to accept the minutes as they have. Esther, go ahead. Esther, go ahead.
I move that the minutes be adopted as read and that the clerk be paid.
Okay, can I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Don't think so. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Anybody opposed? I don't think so. All right, Esther, anything you want to say here? I don't think so. All right.
I
So
wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say thank you to Elliot. He's doing a great job.
Yes, he is.
Here,
Yes,
here.
he is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are doing a fantastic job. And Tammy has offered to take over a position that actually I didn't even realize Barbara was doing. Barbara, being so good with detail, was helping make sure that all of Elliot's content was in fact on point. And so Tammy is now going to be just kind of double checking before the minutes go out for us to take a look at. So Tammy, thanks for stepping up and taking care of that.
Certainly. Elliot makes it a very easy job.
I would think so. I would think so. All right. We are now on to the treasurer's report. And I was so happy to see that come through this afternoon. So Sue.
Oh, okay. So we did get that up on the share file. Good.
Yep.
Elliot got paid twice this month, so we could get caught up with paying him.
Okay.
And our beginning balance was $69,868, and we now have $69,121.44. And we will try to figure out why the National Trust renewal was not paid, the $250 that we made the motion for. I think someone was on vacation for a long time with the county in December, so I believe that happened. And I'm really terrible about doing this reimbursement stuff. I have a double negative kind of in there. You will not be reimbursed for any Virginia tax is what I meant to say. And we have a county voucher form for anything that advocacy or history commission buys. And we're going to get that form and some little check boxes and things so we can make the county's job easier so we can get people paid on time. And Laura is still working with trying to set up that meeting, Lynn, on finances and how we'll do things this coming year.
Good.
Thanks,
Good.
Laura.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you. And thank you, Sue. Anything else, Sue, you have?
No, because you know about the history commission and
Right.
right hand. Yeah. So nope. Next month for that for the final.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. And I also want to thank Sue, because I will tell you the treasurer's job has never been particularly easy. The protocol and what seems to work one time and trying to make it work the next time doesn't always work. So I would imagine, I'm just guessing at this, Sue, there are probably some days where it feels a little bit thankless, and you've got some big shoes to fit into. We've had some treasurers before you that have had some similar angst, and the good news is everybody continues to trudge on through it like you have done so well. Okay. You're welcome. Let's go to, okay, Amy is not here tonight, so Liz, are you filling in on her report?
I am filling in for Amy.
Okay.
For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Liz Crowell. I'm the Archaeology and Collections Branch Manager for the Fairfax County Park Authority. And I will be giving our brief presentation. And then I invited two guests from the Park Authority to accompany me tonight. So I'm just going to introduce them and let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we can move on. First, after Daphne Ahalt, who was our assistant lab manager, retired, we received permission to re-advertise for that position. And that is the or application period is closed, and we're reviewing the information from the candidates, and we'll be holding interviews later in February. So hopefully we'll have someone starting new in that position in the early spring. Another thing that we've done in the past month is we've met with members of Pohick Church. They have gone to the Architectural Review Board regarding the construction of an accessibility ramp for the church. And because that is in a historic overlay district, archaeology has to be done. And archaeology and collections branch staff have been assisting them, including providing them with Virginia Department of Historic Resources lists of consultants. The other thing that we wanted to announce is that the Virginia Department of Historic Resources has launched a grant program for historic preservation resources associated with Virginia's Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. They have $5 million to distribute. They're looking for people to pursue those grants. And the grants will range, they have to be a minimum of $50,000 and no more than $1 million per grant. And they are having a couple of workshops to address how this works. And if Amy, when she put together our report, went ahead and gave a link to information on the grant. So anyone who is interested, please go to the link. And if you have any difficulty with that, you can reach out to me and I can send you more information. And the one thing that is not on this list is that as of February 14th, I will be with the Park Authority for 20 years. So I have a big anniversary. So anyway, but that was not on my list.
Wow.
Congratulations, Liz. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
Now,
I remember when you first came on, actually.
Yes. Now, I invited 2 members of the Park Authority to come and sit in on the History Commission meeting tonight. The first person I will introduce is Laura Grape. Laura is, as of last February 14th, she and I share an anniversary date, but as of last February 14th, Laura took over as the Resource Management Division Division Director, and she's been doing a great job. We're really fortunate to have her, and I'll let her give a little bit, just a short introduction to herself, but we're very glad that she's with us. Laura?
Thank you, Liz, and it's really nice to be with you all this evening. It's nice to see some familiar names, including Peggy Tadesh. We worked together over at NVRC in an earlier life. So it's really nice to see everything come full circle and certainly to recognize that it's a very small world. But thank you. My name's Laura Grape. I've been now with the Park Authority for about a year. I have the great pleasure of working with Liz. She is one of our branches within the Resource Management Division, along with several of our sites, our nature-based and history-based and cultural sites across the park system fall under RMD's management. And we also have natural resources management and subject matter experts that support efforts across the park system. I just had a few things that I wanted to share about where RMD is and where we're headed. We definitely have some great talent among our team, and we're taking a good hard look at our division's organizational structure and making sure that we're focused in the right areas, reaffirming that we're focused in the right areas, and making sure that we have appropriate resources allocated to be able to support our goals and our mission for the Park Authority. We are also taking a good hard look at our interpretation and planning for interpretive programs as well, exploring ethical interpretation, striving to tell full stories and histories, and building confidence among our team with some of those uncomfortable histories that we also have to share. We're really proud of our technical experts, especially among our archaeology and collections branch. And I know Kelsey is going to have an opportunity to introduce herself here in just a moment too. We have some great team members that are joining the Park Authority, and our future is very bright. So very much appreciate all that you do, the time that you volunteer to support history, making sure that our history is preserved. And then I look forward to continuing to work with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. And the other person I wanted to introduce to the group is Kelsey Atwood. Kelsey joined us as the Archaeological and Museum Collections Manager. So she deals with our archaeological and museum collections, and she will be guiding us through our upcoming American Alliance of Museums reaccreditation process. So Kelsey, if you could just tell the group a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Glad to be with you all this evening. I am Kelsey Atwood, and as Liz said, I'm the Archaeological and Museum Collections Manager for the Park Authority. I joined the team in September of last year, and I've been enjoying getting to know the collection and the folks involved, as well as our local history. I am originally from Northwest Arkansas, but I moved out to the East Coast for graduate school. I have my master's in museum studies from George Washington University, and my undergraduate background is in anthropology and Spanish. So I've really been enjoying getting to know a whole new set of historic sites and histories and peoples, and digging into that. And my passion for history started pretty early, but I feel very strongly about public access to collections, having our items be well preserved and well cared for, and collecting to making sure that we can tell those diverse stories and adequately reflect the residents of Fairfax County and share their history. So excited to be on the team.
Thank you very much, Kelsey and Laura, and thank you, History Commission. That concludes my report if no one has any questions.
Okay, thank you, Liz. So Liz, the resource management piece that we have in the Heritage Conservation is, oh, wait a minute, is that Amy or is that Stephanie?
That would be Stephanie tonight.
Okay, all right. Then do you want to go ahead and do that? And you know what? I didn't put you on the agenda, Stephanie. So go ahead. You should be clustered with the staff reports. I apologize.
Not a problem.
Must have missed you last month too.
Not a problem. We switch off among the HCB. So just a few updates tonight. Under operations and maintenance, work to repair termite damage at Drainsville Tavern is nearly complete, and we'll move on to the next phase soon. Updates are posted on the Resident Curator Program's website. For Historic Sites Volunteer Corps, staff are finishing the tentative calendar of events, with the first event occurring in March. So additional information will be forthcoming. And finally, for the Resident Curator Program updates, interior demo at Elmore Farmhouse has been completed, and construction permits are still pending. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
To have you here. All right, Chris Barbershop, you always have exciting things for us to hear about.
Hi, yes, there was a staff report, but it made it onto the share file, but didn't make it into the email. So I apologize about that, and I'll get that to Elliot. We had a lot of programs this past month. The biggest one, Tammy and I partnered on this Fairfax County History Book Club. Many of you actually attended, and we hope to see you for the next one on February 7th. You don't even have to read the book, just drop in and enjoy the conversation, but it should be fun. And we're going to be reading the Fairfax County, Virginia, a history book over the next 8 months. So it's going to be fun stuff. We also released our book, Desegregation in Northern Virginia Libraries, on Saturday, January 14th. And we had over 60 people attend, including descendants of the civil rights activists that we wrote about in the book. So that was really exciting. We also gave a lot of tours and talks to the McLean Newcomers Club and the Fairfax County chapter of the DAR. Elaine McRae is retiring on February 12th. I think I mentioned that at the last meeting. So if you want to stop by the Virginia Room in the next few days, an hour in February, say goodbye. I'm sure she would love that. And some new collection additions. Gretchen Bulova, who's not here tonight, she donated 20 years of newsletters of the Middle Ridge neighborhood in Fairfax from the 2000s. And Paul Overberg donated several reports from Tyson's Tunnel Incorporated. So this was back when, in the early 2000s, they were trying to decide how best to pass Metro through Tyson's. So there was this group that wanted to dig a tunnel under Tyson's and put it, but ultimately that didn't happen. So yeah, that's the Virginia report. And got any questions? Fire away.
I got a question.
Yes, Ann.
Will you sign my article?
I was going to say, what about your article that was in the Washington Post?
That was really exciting. Yeah. And stop by anytime. I'll sign it for you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. If anybody missed it, it was John Kelly writing about Suzanne and Chris's book, and it's a lovely photograph, two photographs, one of Chris.
What's the date? What's the date on it?
Today.
Oh, it is today. Oh my goodness. That's exciting.
Even my husband circled it. He was so excited, Chris.
Wow.
That's great. That's wonderful.
I'm very honored.
Very good.
That's great. That's great. And he writes a great column. When Mary and I were launching the cemetery preservation group, that he wrote about us.
Yeah.
And so when he speaks, people listen. So this is really significant.
It's so true. It's not the first time he's written about Chris.
Yeah. And I think Inside Nova also did a article too.
Aw, that's great.
All right, I do have a question that's unrelated to fame and fortune. So I was looking on my phone app for audiobooks, and I noticed that Fairfax County Library does not have any copies of A Nation of Nations, and that's kind of a centerpiece of our history conference this year. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if the History Commission sponsored the purchase of an ebook version of that and audio version? And I didn't know, whether you're the person to talk to about that, and sort of, maybe in preparation for next month having a motion about that, maybe we could do a little bit of research on, how many copies we would get. So if you have a point of contact on that, if it's not you, let me know, because I think that would be a nice thing for the library to have that, especially leading into our conference.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah.
At least one. I'm wondering if maybe like 3 copies would be.
Right.
I don't know, Chris, how often do they do multiple copies? But
I don't know, but I can feed it up the chain to collection services, and they'll have an answer for us. So I'll let you know, Tammy.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
All right, then let us move on. And Cheryl, I can't see you, but any updates on the I-495 SEL project section 106 that we talked about a few weeks, well, a couple of months ago now?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything further about that, Lynn.
No more, no meetings are set up or anything? Okay.
No, nothing to report on that as far as I know.
Lynn, I have to do my staff report.
Oh, I'm sorry. It just went right over you. I put a little arrow here and it was off to the side and it messed me all up. Laura, thank you. Thank you. And I'm very happy that you're here with us tonight.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Hello, commissioners. Hi, no worries. Yeah, and I'm glad that we had a little break. So it's hard for me to follow local celebrity Chris. So now we can just, we have been very busy over at DPD this past month. Our survey efforts are moving forward and out of control. Here we go. Okay, I gotcha. Huge news. So finally, our African American context study and architectural survey is going to be released to the public in about 2 weeks. So I will send you all a link. It's going to be on our website or on DPD's website. I will send you all a link. You can look at it, make comments. The History Commission can make comments as a whole or individually. It's up to you. It's good. we are now at the point where we can't make any more comments. We need to hear what Fairfax County residents think about it. Gum Springs, that survey, the RFP is due on Friday, this Friday, and we're working with the community to pick a consultant. Centerville starts this month as well, our Centerville survey. So be on the lookout for me talking about that a lot for the next 4 years. I don't know, somewhere in there. Okay, so our staff positions, the interviews have ended and the candidates are being moved through HR for final approval. So we're hoping that we will have a new ARB staff person post haste. The African American Markers Program. So this, the exhibit is going in the end of this week, early next week, because, gentle reminder, history commissioners, this coming Tuesday, February 7th, as part of the Board of Supervisors meeting, they're doing that whole celebration about this project, you know, real launch, real kickoff. The students are going to be there. Their parents are going to be there. If you all can make it, the Board of Supervisors starts at 9:30. It's slated for, you know, the beginning of it. Well, you guys were at the one a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, you've been before.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to be in the beginning. And then I think, and Stephanie can jump in if I'm not right about this, there's going to be maybe punch and cookies afterwards, something like that. That's look, everyone perked up. Oh, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Everyone perked up. So yes, I do want to put that on just as a reminder that that's happening. Let's see. Oh, so last month I told you all about the staff doing the BRT narratives for the bus stations. FCDOT came to us and said they no longer need us to do that, and they're not incorporating the historic component at the bus stations. Bummer. However, what we're going to do is we're going to use that as part of just general education and outreach. And, because the work is already done, there's no reason to throw it away, to promote historic resources in Fairfax County through our website, through, e-blast. So we're working, our staff are working on developing an educational program. Oh, the Goins House. So you guys remember the Goins House? Yes? Okay, the Goins House, it went before the Board of Zoning and Appeal on January 25th. And as part of the developmental conditions, we asked for a phase 2 architectural survey of the property and $5,000 for a wayside marker, and both of those are going to happen. So that's a nice little documentation preservation win for us. Other notes, if y'all would not mind taking a look at that National Register nomination, and if you have any comments, let us know. Or again, if you like it and you think it's solid, a support letter to send to the state for their board meeting when they assess this property for listing, that would be awesome. And the last thing I want to tell you is I have all the comp deck information. Thank you all so much for confirming. If you have any changes to make, please let me know. It's almost ready. We're just waiting on our last 2 commissioners to come through, and then we will have a solid document that you all can have. Okay.
Right.
Any questions?
I have a question. It's probably in here somewhere, but what's the timing on the National Register feedback?
It's March 13th, I believe. Yeah, they're meeting next week. I'll have to double check. I'll send it to you again. Not off the top of my head, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, and let me tell you what.
It's a fascinating read. It's a fascinating read. It really, really is. It's just amazing. The historicity that just carries through all of it. Back to Lord Fairfax. I mean, it's amazing. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laura. Then I've got another question for you too.
Oh no, I just was gonna tell you what happened with ShareFile, but it's just like
what happened?
Stuff.
What happened?
So they released a new version of it on January 27th and told us today.
Oh.
It's not like anybody in the county uses. I have to stop. We're on camera. Sorry, Cheryl. It looks like you have something to say.
Okay. I have one. Laura, you had mentioned the Board of Supervisors meeting next week. If you could send an email out that reminds all of us about that, that would be great. Okay. I'm sorry if I just talked over somebody who was getting ready to speak.
Oh, no, I was just going to follow up on the National Register nomination. It sounded, Laura, like they're going to be meeting before we meet as a commission. So you need individual comments and letters rather than a commission letter?
I think we would just need one, honestly. I don't think we need individual letters of support. I don't know which committee that would fall to.
I'm happy to write up something if somebody's got a template of how we've done this in the past, which I'm sure we have.
We do, because we did it for Pride of Fairfax. So I do
Okay.
have I'm pretty sure that I have, well, I don't know if I have the final
Got a
copy of.
template? But
They're
I
all,
also,
they're all
I don't-
different. They're all
different,
supporting
but
different aspects, yeah.
yeah, but it's nice to see what's been done in the past. So I think
Hmm.
we'll take a
Wait.
look back and see what we can find.
but if I do that, I don't want to do that without, I mean, I've read through it. I know a number of you have read through it. I don't want to speak on behalf of folks that,
I think it's one of those things where we would someone would make a motion to delegate to Lynn and somebody or a tiny committee to prepare this letter on our behalf in time for whatever the deadline is.
Make the motion.
thank you, Carol.
So
Make the
somebody who knows
motion.
what we're talking about should make the motion, not me.
Someone who's in the district.
Someone who used to play tennis.
Well, I was hoping Ann would make the motion, but the
Is this
motion would be,
Is this the Drovers one?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, well, if somebody would clean it up, I could start. I would like to make a motion that the History Commission delegate or authorize our chairman and a small committee of her choice, unless we want to name them, to read and comment on the Drovers something.
Drover Rest.
Drover Rest, National Register nomination, so that we're represented in this effort.
I second the
See,
motion.
I'll second it. You did better than I would. Second.
Okay. All right. Any discussion here on this, guys? It's an amazing property. It really is, and it's got an amazing history. The gentleman that lived there last was quite an he's quite a climate changer kind of person.
Oh, yeah.
He has hung out with Al Gore and all kinds of people that have been long ago and far away interested in climate issues.
Mhm.
He's been down to Brazil, to the rainforest, and has done some amazing things. Okay, somebody else I think was going to speak up.
So
I think we should call the
is there a
question.
committee?
Esther said something.
Is there a committee?
No, we haven't gotten that far yet. So does anybody want to weigh in on this? Because I can draft something, Tammy's going to send me something, and then I can just pass it around and get some edits. Does that sound enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So who would like to be on an ad hoc committee here?
I'll be on it.
Wonderful. Carol, okay. Anybody else?
That's
I'll
all
be
we
on it.
need.
Just you and I,
Oh,
it'd be
Esther.
real easy.
Esther
real
just
easy.
volunteered.
Who just volunteered?
Esther did.
Esther, okay. Wonderful, Esther. We'll crack this out in 20 minutes.
If you need a third, I'll weigh in.
All right, wonderful, Cheryl. I've got your name on my list now. Okay. So we will have a little committee to rise up in support of Drover's Rest. One of the things I discovered about the name of this place, Drover's Rest is a common term that was used in many places around the country, and it indicated where someone of a middle class background could come and rest if they were traveling. So it kind of was an inn, and there was a point in time where it was allowed to be an inn as long as it didn't have alcohol. It's but I think it's wonderful that it's right in our backyard, and it's right in McLean. So anyway,
All right, let's see. We should call the question.
Go ahead, Tammy. Let's hear you call it.
All righty. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Sounds like it passes unanimously.
Yes, I think that was unanimous. Thank you, guys. Really, really appreciate that. That was kind of a bit of a jump ahead there. Cheryl, you said that you have nothing to report on section 106 for the I-495 SEL. Do you want me to keep this on the agenda just to kind of keep us focused? How would you like me to handle that?
It's up to you. You know, if it can be a useful bookmark, and I can just say I have nothing to report as long as we don't hear anything. So it's up to you.
All right, I think I'm going to leave it on the agenda, folks, because when it was first brought to our attention, there's quite a bit of discussion and a lot of concern about all the different areas that this this construction might affect. So we will just leave it there. All right. Secondly, we had a very spirited discussion last month about the Don Loring School. This is a location that is in Sue Kovacs-Schumann's district. And Tammy has gotten some energy herself in wanting to put together some encouraging words for the board, the school board to hear in terms of our support of doing something to memorialize it. There was a little bit of miscommunication here that maybe David was going to take this on, and I don't think David's bandwidth is quite wide enough right now to do this. So Tammy and Sue, what would you like to say in regards to Don Loring right now? What can we do to help you, especially Sue? You, this is your territory. This is right. Sue's backyard.
Would you like me to summarize the advocacy meeting and then
yes,
carry on from there? Because that we had another
forward to do that. Sure.
We had another spirited discussion. At advocacy, and if you had a chance to look at the advocacy minutes, it's in there. Sue couldn't come, but Tammy gave a summary of what she's been up to. I know both of you, both Tammy and Sue, have been after your have been trying to get a hold of your school board member or an appropriate school board member just to find out more about it. We really don't have an answer on how far things have gone. You know, is it, actually Cheryl did an amazing timeline. So it kind of looks like we're really headed towards demolition. But we need someone to tell us where they stand. And so that's what we, in talking, we thought, well, let's see if we can, let's go ahead and recommend that we talk about writing a letter to the school board to say what steps, if any, have been taken to address preservation, you know, to just reiterate the important history of the site and CC the BOS. And so Bob Beach came and talked about alternatives, adaptive reuse. And it got down to our newest member, Tom, putting forward a motion that I think, if you're with us, Tom, would you like to read the motion and then we can start the discussion, if any?
Yes,
sure. I'm happy to do that. With thanks to Tammy for wordsmithing my off-the-cuff motion, and with apologies to the advocacy committee for injecting myself into this in the first meeting I ever attended. But the motion we came up with was, I moved that the advocacy committee write a letter under the signature of the History Commission chair to be sent to the school board on the subject of renovation and potential demolition of Don Loring School to ascertain the status of the project and setting the expectation that the History Commission be included in the process moving forward.
Okay, we just need to find out who that needs to go to, right?
So I will second the motion.
Right. So, all right,
So
anything
now's
else?
time for discussion, yeah.
So do we have any idea who this letter needs to go to?
It looks like Sue has her
Okay.
hand up.
Well, I wanted to say that, yeah, we should avoid the word demolition because I was told, and it's not
I agree.
official from anyone, that we are not, I mean, that we're kind of jumping over something that's not happening. So I think we need to be a little careful. And I'm speaking to my supervisor tomorrow, who is a good friend of the school board person. Other school board people have gotten back to me and said, oh yeah, that's terrible, but we don't know anything about it. 3 others, but not the person in whose district it really is. The at-large people are just fine. So I think we do need to do a letter saying keep us informed, and maybe even include a little in our letter about some kind of mark or something to not just forget the history of this school. And tomorrow I'm speaking with my supervisor again, and I did speak with the school board member in whose district it is, and I invited him to something in 3 weeks, which he has accepted, and it's a social occasion, as the last one was. So even if you can't get them sitting down, the school's facilities people, we will have some of them in the room to discuss this.
Okay.
Right. I think that's a really good point. So we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to assume just demolition. One of the things that was particularly disturbing, I thought, about the timeline that that Cheryl put together is it really almost sounds like they know the limits of our inventory and feel that it is honorary and jumped right to doing away with the building, and that was a little disheartening to read. I thought just that, some not really carefully thinking about the inventory as an important historic.
Well, agreed. And the school's facility people, in my discussions with them on task forces in the past about school bus traffic, is basically, thank you for your opinion, go away. And my supervisor doesn't like that, having been a school board member. So she's aware of this, and we'll talk again tomorrow. And I think she's a strong advocate too for keeping something there of the history of that school. She's really familiar with it. So stay tuned. I mean, it would be great to have a few facilities people and the school board members sit down and the supervisor. The reality is, with that new school calendar that they're all stressing over right now as we speak, and in different districts, the school board members are all busy with that because parents hate the new school calendar this year that has more religious holidays and other things and more teacher days. I think once this is over, another week, we'll be able to get more out of them.
That'd be good.
Sue, since you're going to meet with Supervisor Palachuk tomorrow, after that meeting, do you want to go ahead, because the motion was just made that I write a letter. Do you want to try to craft something? Do you want to call me? You want to work something out? What would you like to do here? Because I know this is, you've been passionate about this from the beginning.
Well, and Tammy has already started something, and I guess I'm toying over how strong we want that wording to be. But I think having the supervisor go part of it with us to the school board, to the facilities people, is really important, because she's a real advocate for preserving all of the history that we have. So
appropriately,
I'll work with you and Tammy on that, sure. And time wise, let's give it like a week or two and see what happens in 2 weeks, something like that.
I think Cheryl made a good point last time, to be cautious of jumping forward again, to move toward a marker and something to mark it when it's gone, before we really kind of press them about, have you really looked at adaptive reuse? I think that was a very good point that Cheryl made. So getting back to Tom's motion, if we want to take out the word demolition, do we have a specific change that we'd like to see? Maybe Tom could reread that part of it, and you could figure out, Sue, what you want to.
So are we amending the motion, possibly?
I think that was Sue's idea.
Yeah, could you read it again?
Sure. I move that the Advocacy Committee write a letter under the signature of the History Commission Chair to be sent to the school board on the subject of renovation and potential demolition of Dunloring School to ascertain the status of the project and setting the expectation that the History Commission be included in the process moving forward.
Actually, I think that's fine. We say potential. Let's leave it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
And the
good.
D word's not in there. The D word's not in the motion. Okay.
So,
All
all right, well,
right.
that's good.
All right. So that's the motion. Because it's been amended, I think we need to vote on it again. Yes?
No, it hasn't been amended.
It wasn't amended, so we're good with
Oh,
the
okay. You're fine with it. I thought.
Yeah,
that
yeah. We have the
had
word
it was-
potential.
Okay.
That's illegal. Yeah.
That's good enough. Okay. All right. And then, all right. So then Sue and I, Tammy, will be in touch. Tom will keep you in the loop here.
Well,
And
we
thank
have to
you
call
for
the question.
Okay, and I'm trying to finish up my comments here. And
That's
thank you for taking this up in advocacy. And because I think we did have a very good conversation there, and we had Bob Beach come in and talk a little bit about
It was
what
good.
different possibilities
All
there.
those in favor?
Thanks, Esther.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose? The motion carries.
All right, thanks, Esther. The next thing on our agenda is the renaming of Fort Belvoir. So Tammy, do you want to take some time here? We've got.
Yeah. I have some slides. Let me see if I am able to share.
I'm going to go off screen for just a minute, Tammy. My cell phone's almost dead, and I'm trying to communicate with David Meyer. So I will be back.
Okay, let's see. I was going to say, is that coming up?
I see TM. Oh, there it is. Oh, not anymore.
Wait a minute. This is a new screen that we have here.
Yes, it is.
All right. Do we see it? No?
Yeah.
We can see it
And
now.
it's got-
Tammy.
You can see
Can
it
you
now?
do full screen or full presentation?
Yes,
We're
I
seeing
can.
the
Now
extra
we're
slides
there.
on the
Okay.
side.
Excellent. Okay.
There you
All
go.
right. Do you see it there? I'm going to try to go through this quickly because we have had these discussions before. So I just want to set the context is that Supervisor Stork asked what our position is of the naming commission. And so we thought we would come together and talk about that. Here is the question: why is Fort Belvoir being considered for renaming? And there were two reasons. Fort Belvoir was a site of enslavement. That is true. And then really the reason why it got in front of us, I think, and got on the list of posts to be renamed was a new narrative that was developed that FDR had renamed the post to appeal to Howard Smith, a congressman who opposed civil rights. And so that narrative, I think, is what made it different and got it on this list of sites to be renamed. And here's the background. In May 2021 is when it was added to that list for potential renaming. In September 2021, members of the History Commission attended a stakeholders meeting. And our purpose in attending that meeting at that point was this narrative was new to us, and we did not have a position. We heard of the meeting very quickly beforehand, and we hadn't had a chance to research. And so we decided not to take a position on renaming, but to go and share the extensive history of the Fort Belvoir area, to point out that there are other options other than renaming. And so we went and participated that, and that also kicked off our research into this question. The narrative that we were familiar with was that Lewis Hurdle had named, had pressed for the name to be changed back to Belvoir. And so we started researching. We interacted with the Naming Commission historian on a number of occasions. As you'll remember, he actually attended one of our meetings and gave a briefing. There were many in-person visits, phone calls, emails that passed back and forth. And so we were providing a lot of information to the Naming Commission. In March 2022, we had become concerned that the report that the Naming Commission was going to come out with was not going to contain the full story, the full history that we had uncovered, this history of ties to road building, George Washington's bicentennial birthday, the development of the GW Parkway, the consolidation of historic sites under the National Park Service, historic preservation, all of these themes that were coming out of it we thought were being ignored by the Naming Commission historian. And so we decided to create a report to provide to the Board of Supervisors. Less than 2 weeks after that meeting where we decided to create a report, the Naming Commission determined that Fort Belvoir didn't meet their criteria for a naming recommendation. And so we've kind of put that on the back burner. The report recommended that the Army conduct their own investigations. And I think we had a false sense of security that, you know, if the Army looked at it, they would see what we saw. And so we put it, creating the report on the back burner. We obviously were busy with a lot of other things. And then in September 2022, the Naming Commission final report came out, and it told a very different story of, you know, what was occurring in 1935. And the recommendation that came out of it was a little bit stronger. It said that they strongly encouraged the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of the Army to review these historical facts and consider renaming. So so they weren't directing them to do their own research anymore. They were saying, look at what we've created. And there are significant issues with that commission final report. And I don't know if you all had a chance to take a look at it, but I'm kind of going to go through the two issues, the 1935 renaming quickly because we have talked about it before, and then also that it's a site of enslavement. I'm going to deal with those two issues and point out some problems that we see in the report. The report focuses very heavily on Howard Smith as being this central figure, and then also brings in Carter Glass and Harry Bird. And we don't have any primary source evidence that connects them to the name change. These are the four individuals that we see connected to the name change. We have some new information that even ties Harold Ickes more closely to it and gives more motives. And the motives are really tied toward historic preservation. It was a different kind of idea of historic preservation then in 1935. You had a lot of energy coming into it, and there was, I'm going to call it more of a naive view of our founding fathers. And so these were people of their time, but they also were not representative of the lost cause, as the report really sort of portrays going on. Yes, the lost cause was real. Jim Crow was real in 1935. It was in the air. And so these people all were exposed to that and showed elements of it, but it really wasn't their driving force that was going on. So FDR and Harold Ickes specifically, very much advocates of African-American rights. And in fact, I just watched on PBS over the weekend, they had Marian Anderson singing on the, the recording of her singing the national, well, no, it was I Country 'Tis of Thee. She did a whole concert at the Lincoln Memorial. And Harold Ickes was the one that made that happen. And so that's just one example of some of the things that he did. So we've talked about them before. These are the four that are possibly connected to the name change. We have two military gentlemen and two 8th District congressmen who are on here. I added, since the last talk, Major General Edward Murphy Markham, and he was the commandant of Fort Belvoir when all of the original archaeology was going on. So when first the ideas of rebuilding the Belvoir Manor home came up for the commandant, it was really Major General Markham's purview that was happening under. And at the time of the renaming in 1935, he had risen to the post of the Chief of Engineers. And this is new research that I've uncovered, that he's that at the time when FDR was meeting with Lewis Hurdle at Gunston Hall, General Markham was surveying Gunston Cove for the extension of the parkway that Lewis Hurdle was so intrigued to get. So this is new information that we have on General Markham's involvement. We knew that he had written history articles about Belvoir, but this is a gentleman from Troy, New York, who ties in with all of this, and he was tied in with the Fine Arts Commission as well. So the role of Howard Smith is really honestly becoming smaller and smaller as we look at this. And now I'm going to go in. I pulled a few examples of errors that we have found in the report. There are many of them, and I sort of picked one from each era to show you examples. The Naming Commission report is very negative about the Fairfaxes and says that they did not have a role in American history. This kind of goes against the whole idea that, the Fairfaxes mentored George Washington. In every biography of George Washington, they talk about the training that he got at Belvoir and the intervention of the Fairfaxes to get his original jobs as a surveyor, in the militia, and then his first term in the House of Burgesses. So, and here's an example. They say the Fairfaxes were never Americans, nor did they wish to be. Well, here's a letter of George William Fairfax to George Washington, and he says, "I glory in being an American." So obviously, the Naming Commission report has missed this. It wasn't hard to find. George William Fairfax was in England at the time of the Revolutionary War, and he was his mail was being read. He was trying to help Americans who were over there, and he was being despised as American, and now he feels like he's being courted after the revolution is successful. So that's just, one example there. Here's another example, and this is one that we went to the Naming Commission from the beginning, and said the original name of the camp was Camp Belvoir from 1912 to 1917. This went to them in emails, phone calls, everything. They have ignored it. They say Andrew Humphreys was the original namesake of what is now Belvoir. There's nowhere in that report that you can see that Camp Belvoir was the original name. And that's important to the name coming back in 1935. It's not out of the blue. Roosevelt actually says in his letter, the name of Belvoir is restored. So he knows that he's restoring the original camp name, as well as the mansion name. And here is a letter that was uncovered. Actually, Dr. Mueller, found this letter. Well, actually, it came to him through the biographer of Howard Smith. And the biographer of Howard Smith thinks it's very unlikely that that FDR was trying to appease Howard Smith. He knows that Howard Smith was a junior congressman at the time, and the biographer found this letter in the FDR archives. And so this letter, basically, it's from Harold Ickes to FDR, and he's asking for Belvoir to be put under the National Park Service. And in his letter, he says, "My dear Mr. President, Congressman Smith has introduced in the House the bill providing for the restoration of Belvoir." And he says he has done this at the request of General Markham. So we know that this wasn't Howard Smith's original idea. This is something that's coming from the military. It's Harold Ickes is supporting it. Howard Smith is more along for the ride. It wasn't originally his idea. He's carrying out, he's on board with someone else's idea. So that's a different perspective than you're seeing in the Naming Commission's report. So these are some of the difficulties that we found with their report, and our look at the evidence shows a much stronger narrative that Lewis Hurdle was the one who advocated for the name change to promote historical recognition and tourism. It was tied with the extension of the Mount Vernon Memorial Highway, which never happened. And then other individuals and organizations were supporting these goals. Harold Ickes had his own purposes in wanting the Belvoir name to be changed back. He had interests for having a historic site there. So moving on to the original, the top issue there, which was that Fort Belvoir is a site of enslavement, and that is absolutely true. And I'm showing you here the 1760 map that Beth Mitchell created, and I hope that you all use this as much as I do. It's a terrific map. It shows the three necks that are geographically located, in the Mount Vernon district. We have the Mason Neck, the Belvoir Neck, and the Mount Vernon Neck. And this map very nicely shows the land ownership here: George Mason, George William Fairfax, and George Washington. And then another element that they were able to bring into this map that I think is very helpful is that it shows the number of enslaved people that were located on these pieces of property. And these come from the tax records. And this is important because at this time, about a third of the population is African-American enslaved people. And so you can see underneath George Mason's name, it has the number there, number 22. George William Fairfax, there were 15 enslaved people. And then George Washington, there were 88 enslaved people there. And so these are the people who are here. And this is, the part of the story that we want to tell further. So this is a document that a piece of information that we relied on during our Confederate names inventory. And this is a statement that shows that the National Trust for Historic Preservation makes a differentiation between symbolic monuments and actual historic sites, which Belvoir is a historic site. And they say we differentiate symbolic monuments from historic sites that have developed over time, some of them places built by African Americans held in bondage. And we believe that that is the case for Belvoir. These historic sites today must serve as critical places to explore the legacies of slavery and discrimination, and as sites of conscience where our honest exploration of our shared history and reconciliation can occur. And we shared this policy with the Naming Commission when we first went to that stakeholders meeting. And the reason that we did that is that we had concerns that if the name Belvoir is taken off of the fort, then our ability to tell these stories is hampered a little. It's an obstacle. It's hard enough to get people to remember that Belvoir was a place where there were enslaved people held. And so it'll become even more difficult if the name Belvoir isn't there. So we feel like that would separate, the true history of this site and damage our ability to tell the stories. At this point, the story of the enslaved is told in a very limited way. There is a single panel that it's in the historic area that talks about the enslaved from information only on William Fairfax's will. And so we believe that there is more information that can be obtained as the Fairfax family intermarried with the Washingtons and the Carlyles. And we think that maybe we can find out some more information about these people. Now, this is not the only African-American story on the post. Yes, you have the enslaved 15 to 20 individuals who were there from a period of 1741 to 1783, but we also have following that, a number of African-American stories that are not being told on Fort Belvoir, and there's no longer a historian at Fort Belvoir. And so we think that this is an opportunity when people are engaged with trying to tell the fuller story, the more accurate story of history. And so we feel like this is a good time to ask for these places to be interpreted. You have the Free Black community of Woodlawn that was there for about 75 years, that had the second largest colored school in Fairfax County. That community was wiped out when Fort Belvoir expanded for World War II, and there are no markers there. And that's the current Fort Belvoir Elementary School sits on that property. There was a colored civilian conservation corps camp. There is a marker. Mary Lipsey put a marker at Accotink. I think it's at Lake Accotink, that shows a fire road that this section of the Conservation Corps created. But on base there is we don't know the location of it, and we haven't done any research on that. So that's an area. There were segregated African-American soldiers who lived in Young's Village. It was a segregated village there, named after Charles Young, who was the highest ranking African-American officer in the Army at that point. And so that was there from 1945 to 1963. And I believe that Phyllis Walker Ford's aunt taught at the school that served Young's Village. So removing the name Belvoir, we think, may reduce the likelihood that these stories are told. So here is the motion that I'd like to put forward. I have appended a little bit of, I put a little addition at the end of it to talk about just our findings in general compared to the Naming Commission's report. So here it is. I move that the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position that a fuller, more accurate telling of local and national history is better served by retention of the name Fort Belvoir and allocation of funds and manpower to interpret the extensive African American history on the post. Appended to this letter will be a summary of the primary source evidence that supports a stronger interpretation of events, alternative to that presented in the Naming Commission's report. So that is it, and I will try to get back to our regular screen here so we can.
Do you want a second to that motion, Tammy, or you just?
I would second that. I love it. I love it, Tammy. You were just right on with that, having also been on the committee. I think I think about, was it the town of Williams that was at Fort Belvoir? Excuse me, that was where the Dulles Airport was, an African-American town that was erased. And so there's no interpretation of it. And it's just, there was such a concentration. There was so much that happened that talks about our African-American history through the military. I mean, heavens, we're going to be celebrating the desegregation of the military 75th anniversary this July. I mean, Belvoir is a front and center of that important event. And I think sometimes you do need to keep something there to have people remember, and really, I think just greater interpretation needs to be done. I'm 100% behind that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan?
Does anyone else have comments or questions?
I do. First of all, Tammy, there's such an incredibly impressive amount of research, and to me, a basically conclusive demonstration that the Naming Commission may have gotten it wrong in terms of people's motivations. But I'm wondering, even if you accept that this was not lost cause related, whether at this moment in American history, we want to take the position that an important military base should retain the name of a place where people were enslaved.
Right.
I still think
I
that's very.
I think that's valid. I think that's a valid concern. And I wish that they had kind of. Oh, go ahead.
Tom, I don't think was done speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it. I wouldn't want to do the Army's work for it, but it seems to me something of a tragedy that they ever changed it. I understand it was originally Camp Belvoir, but Fort Humphreys, that honored a man who fought very bravely for his country and against people who took up arms against their country in defense of not just the institution of slavery, but the spread of slavery.
Correct.
So to me, that's really unfortunate, and I could understand the case to be made for returning to that name. And the only other thing I would add is, I understand what you're saying about the importance of research into the African American experience there. But when you note that they don't have a historian anymore, and this research has never been done, that to me doesn't make a very strong case for keeping it in the hands of those same people.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's one of those things where we're seeing a lot of differences, of course, in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, in how folks are researching the African American experience. And dealing with the legacy of slavery at some of these places that have been honored in the past. for their history. And you look at Gunston Hall and their efforts to now research the East Yard, which was like a thriving village there. And so, and you ask those same questions. Why wasn't this researched before? Why are we just getting to it now? Same thing with Woodlawn. Just getting to that point now where they're doing more research. They don't know where the African Americans lived at Woodlawn, at the Woodlawn Manor House. They don't know where the enslaved lived, and so they're starting to do that work now. And so I think that Belvoir would have some partners. Actually, I had someone reach out to me from the Carlisle House that said, you know, tell me about the enslaved at Belvoir, because we're starting to do that research too. So this is sort of a reckoning that's just coming about for some people. Some organizations have been at it longer, and that's very good. But I think that it would shut it down to change the name now. So that's, you know, that's just my perspective. But I think what you say is valid. It is this tension between Belvoir as a military base and Belvoir as a historic site has been there from the beginning. The post had its inception with the Mount Vernon ladies. They were the ones who insisted that a workhouse not go into that site. And so they are the whole reason that that Belvoir is there. And has, you know, has continued there. So this tension has been there all along. And if you read some of these letters, they, you know, the military folks are wrestling with, if we rebuild the manor house, then you're going to want to put, you know, the parkway through here. And there were people who wanted to put the parkway through, and you saw that Harold Ickes wanted to make it national park. So this tension has been there all along, and they're still contending with it. So it is not an easy issue. But I wish that the naming commission had focused on that and how to wrestle with that, as opposed to what I consider a red herring, going down this this road with Howard Smith.
Okay, you've got some questions here, Tammy. Jordan? Sure.
Yeah, so I'd like to support my buddy Tom. I don't see why and I trained in Humphrey Hall at Fort Belvoir. I don't see why you can't still get the history done and the research done and the history acknowledged, and you know, and change the name of the post of Belvoir. Mm-hmm. I don't see that as dissonance. I don't see that as mutually exclusive. And I would prefer a communication back to the Army that could point out inconsistencies, inaccuracies that we found, and suggest a meeting perhaps to discuss this. I would not go at this point to the stage of suggesting that that we support a continuance of that we're in opposition to a proposal to rename. I would not go that far. Yeah.
So you would support further discussion, further research?
Yeah. I mean, I think you did a great job, Tammy, of research. I haven't done any of this, so I don't know. I haven't talked to them. I don't know where they get their facts from, but certainly there is some, there's a difference of opinion here, difference of research. Let's find out, not saying that anyone's research is wrong, but I think there needs to be a discussion. And if some of this research needs to be corrected, that needs to be, we need to know that. But I don't think at this point that we should support. We should essentially be in opposition to a proposal at this point that would rename Fort Belvoir. I just don't see it. And I think you make a good point about let's do some better research. You know, the African American experience there in history is important. It should be recorded. It should be accurate. That's all important. But as I said, I don't see that as necessarily ipso facto leading to a opposition to change.
So Jordan, I want to clarify something that you said here. I'm just wondering if you're also seeing that a name change might even be the motivation and energy to further do the research that clearly is needed. Is that?
Yeah. Well, I think as I understand the issue, Yeah, well, the issue is that we disagree with their research, that we feel that their research is flawed, and that because of that, we don't feel that the name Belvoir should be changed. I think if the research is flawed, let's get that out in the, let's find out if that's the case. But I don't think at this point that that leads to changing the name. And in fact, if the research is flawed, I don't believe that we should oppose renaming at this point, but we should correct the research. So, but I see that as an initial step.
Okay. Cheryl's had her hand up too.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if Tammy, clarified that the context of this was that she was asked by Supervisor Stark and he indicated there were other supervisors who were interested in getting our opinion on this issue. So it isn't that we're volunteering this. We've been avoiding, and we've been sort of not making a decision, making a recommendation about names for a while because we just didn't want to get involved in that question. But we did have, as Tammy, very quickly, had issues with regard to the research that was being done, and needed to, address those issues, and that's been the sort of focus. I think, what Tammy's comment just earlier about the conflict here, the inherent conflict, is really apt. Because I understand what you are saying, Jordan. I understand what Tom is saying. It's just that this isn't, this isn't an honorary name. It is the name of the place, which I think is distinct from, creating a name in honor of, Belvoir. And it was just describing the name of the geographic place. And I suppose there could be maybe there's a compromise, Fort Humphreys at Belvoir or something like that. But it also, there are implications in terms of costs. There are implications in terms of, all the street signs and things like that have to be changed. And so, that's a political question. It's not our question, but it does, if they're asking us, is there a historical reason to change the name as opposed to a political reason, right? So is there something in the history here that merits concern? And that was the initial argument that the Naming Commission put forward, that because it was a favor for a rather infamous white supremacist, that this was analogous to the memorials to the Confederates. And so that's the question that we've been looking at in terms of Tammy's research. And we just don't find the evidence for that. So I don't know how you want to deal with the naming question as such, but it just, is there a compelling historical reason to change the name? I don't know that there is, unless you're going to argue that everything associated with enslavement should be changed. And so, Washington and Mount Vernon and things like that, should we change Mount Vernon district? Should we change those things? I mean, it gets to be, in terms of like, what is your standard for where you're going to make that choice?
Right. And Fort Sam Houston. I mean, there are other examples. So this first chunk that they carved out, was related to Confederate names. And I don't know that they would go the next step and rename anything that is named for a person who owned enslaved people, or places associated with that. Yeah, so I don't know that they would. It's one of those precedent-setting decisions, I think. And so, where I came to this, it from the beginning was, from having worked for the federal government, is I don't want to give decision makers bad information to make a decision. And so you don't know at this point, because the pond has been fouled by this bad information about Howard Smith. you know, if you give that to the decision makers and they say, well, this is a terrible story, I'm gonna vote to change it. Are they making the decision based on the fact that there were enslaved people there, or are they making the decision based on this, you know, this research that the lack of research that was done? There's no primary source evidence that connects Howard Smith to this naming. So if they had started from the beginning discussing enslavement and made the decision based on that, I would be a whole lot more comfortable. So I don't want to take up any more time, but so do other people have comments?
You've got two more comments. Ann Stunts, and I think Jordan's hand went back up again.
No, that's okay. I just didn't take
from
it down.
before. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Ann? Ann?
Wait,
Okay.
it keeps turning itself off. Okay, I got you. Yes, I think that this is going to sound a little echoey now of what Tammy said, but if they're making a decision, you know, this commission was for Confederate names, and they were able through through incomplete research to connect it to Confederate and racism, and so they decided on, you know, not the correct information, and so it's a flaw. It's a serious flaw, and since we are lucky to have Tammy digging into this, it really has to be corrected. And then, you know, like you say, at some point we have a lot more issues about names connected to enslaved. You know, we have to change the county and everything, and we may get to that point because there are a lot of names in this area in the country that are connected to enslaved. But as I recall, the naming commission for the Department of Defense was very much Confederate oriented.
Yes, really, this was the only thing that wasn't, and they tried to tie it into the lost cause, you know, obviously from the report.
Thank you.
Janae, is your hand up too?
It is. I come from this. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've just got another question from someone in the audience I don't want to lose. Okay, go ahead, Janae.
Okay. I was on the redistricting committee this last year, and we were discussing about changing names of districts, Lee District, Sully District, and then to our surprise, our leader, Paul Berry, also put in the names Mason and Mount Vernon, as well as Springfield. All of them, and they said the reason was because of slavery. And we had a very robust discussion about, wait a minute, is this about the Confederacy or is it about having enslaved? And I think you're right, Tammy, and also you echoed that, Anne. If they want to have a discussion about that, then have a discussion about that. But for right now, they were tying it to the Confederacy and they were tying it to the Jim Crow, which is very flawed. And so that's why I feel very comfortable saying to them, you know what, this is the correct information, and at least we could stand on that. What they do with that, of course, if it's a political issue, we can just, we're not a part of that. But at least we could say this is the correct information as far as we know, and we're happy to research more.
I do want to share with everyone, a colleague and friend, Dee Dee Carter, has joined us this evening. She is an African-American sister of ours. She's been very involved in the Fairfax County Cemetery Preservation Association and a number of other initiatives in the county. I think she has an interesting question. She did put it in the chat box. Not that we want to encourage a whole lot of chat yet tonight, because we are getting close to our bewitching hour. Dee Dee is asking, which I think is a legitimate question, has anyone been in touch with any African-American descendants to get their input?
I think that's an excellent question, and it's right on point. And so one of the difficulties that we have is that this research hasn't been done. And so we don't have descendants of Belvoir, but I suggested to the naming commission that they use the Mount Vernon League of Descendants as a proxy and to get their opinion on that. And I don't think they were, I don't think that they reached out. From my, from my experience, like I've put Supervisor Stork in touch with descendants that I know from the area to talk to. And I think that that's absolutely part of this discussion. And then also people from Gum Springs, I believe, have weighed in as well. So Supervisor Stork is hearing from them, but he's having to ask, and so that is one of the difficulties here. And I applaud everybody who is speaking on this issue on all sides, because it's worthy of being discussed and it's not been discussed. And part of it is that people are afraid to discuss it and afraid to take a position one way or the other on both sides of it. And so I appreciate that. We've heard from the beginning, one of the things that our supervisors were feeding back during this meeting, during the stakeholders meeting back in the beginning. Rodney Lusk was there, Scott Suravel was there, Nick Reinhardt, who was representing Supervisor Stork, was there. And what we were hearing from the politicians was that they're not hearing people talk about this issue. They're not hearing people push for the renaming. It's been in the newspaper. And people seem to either be shying away from it or don't care. Maybe they're apathetic. I don't know. But people aren't speaking on the issue. They aren't pressing for it one way or the other. So one of the questions that I have for you all.
Jump in here a minute, because we have spent not quite 45 minutes on this, and I think it's worthwhile, but I also need to honor everybody else that's on the agenda this evening.
Absolutely. And can I make I have a quick question to try to wrap this up. One of my primary purposes here is to get the real story out there, because I am bothered by the fact that this narrative with no evidence behind it really has become very popular, has become the mainstream story. And so is it possible that we could modify the motion? Would people feel comfortable voting for it if we had a motion that said our position is that a decision should not be based on the naming commission due to flaws?
What was it? I think we all need to go back to the original motion. Can you pull that slide up, Tammy?
I'm sure that I can.
Because I think one of the pieces of the motion was, and you were wise to include it, was a commitment to do more research on the background as it exists here.
Yes. Can you see that now?
No.
Not yet.
I think I stopped sharing, so let me see if I can get it back.
We could, back away from a specific position on the name and
correct,
and just emphasize that that the narrative in the naming commission report is not well grounded.
Yeah. A more accurate telling is better served by doing the research and reading our report.
Yeah.
I mean, the naming commission did do a lot of research. It's a question of weighing all of the evidence in an unbiased fashion.
Correct. Yeah, I mean the indictment of Jim Crow in 1935 is, I mean, it's absolutely true, and the fact that it sort of colored the national narrative is absolutely correct. But the tying in of Howard Smith and Byrd and all of these folks as players in this decision, I think is the unfortunate mistake that they made.
Tammy, I just got a call from David, and his thinking is to put forth a recommendation that this decision be put in abeyance until we can just do some more research. And I'm not sure I have that correct. And I'm in an awkward position here because he called me just now on my cell phone, and I'm not even able to chat with him.
Oh, what a shame. I would think that we would be very comfortable saying that we send them the letter that's the summary, the primary source material that supports a stronger interpretation of alternative events. I mean, I think that's really important to get on the table sooner rather than later, because they really are going down a different path than one that's indicated by Tammy's research. So we could do this by dropping the retention of the name. We can always take that up another time, but if we want to draw this to a close, I would support keeping the more accurate telling of the history and continue with the recommendation that more research be done and link those pieces that you identified in the PowerPoint. I think that's a modest change but important change, because it puts off the bigger picture of which name, but at least clears the air for a different story to be told, a more open mind to what did happen.
Okay,
so are you amending the motion, Anne?
I'm recommending it be amended. I don't really have it in front of me to
So let me
wordsmith.
put it back up again and have you
tell us what you want to strike.
Yeah, that would be good.
Well, with the goal of finessing the question of the name, if the goal is to share the corrective research, the more complete research, then I think we can write it. I don't see it yet.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's see if I did a screenshot. No, I don't have it either.
I'm sorry. I thought I had it coming up there. Let's see.
Seems to be quite a delay.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Now,
is it up there now?
So if we can get you to say, I amend, or I would like to strike whatever portion you're talking about.
I'd be glad to, but I don't have it in front of me.
It's still not up there.
No.
Yes, it is. I can see it.
It is?
Sorry, no.
Oh, it is?
Oh, well, it just disappeared. There it is.
All right.
There we go.
So if I still don't have it in front of me, but maybe somebody else can help me out. You know, the idea, I'd like to, or I or whoever can see it would like to, I call it a friendly amendment. If Tammy thinks it is, it depends on the.
I was going to say, have at it.
And, but again, I'm sorry, I don't see it. So if anybody else.
Let me help you, Anne. It says, I move that the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position that a fuller, more accurate telling of local and national history is better served by retention. Okay, you objected to
so stop, if we stop there.
name.
Yeah, if we stop there so that it doesn't support the name, and we can always come back to this and change and add to it. But this letter could say
you're supporting more research and interpretation.
Yes, and some of that will be attached in Tammy's supporting material, which will be referred to.
So we're taking out allocation of funds and manpower.
Oh, I wouldn't. I think that's a very strong piece of it.
Okay.
I would just take out the part, I'm very sorry I can't see it, but I would take out the one part that we've just been discussing, which people have had want to come to grips with at another time because it's getting late.
Okay, let's say of local and national history is better served by utilizing the allocation of funds and manpower.
No, it's two separate things. One is, I feel like one part, I see, and it's kind of hard. Does anybody see where I'm heading? It's hard to take what's there.
I think, and that just by striking the reference to the name the way
yes.
Tammy has done,
but
I
you
think
need
it clarifies
a word
it.
there.
Right. So it,
that's why I said utilizing.
Right. Yeah.
And let me jump in here too. This is a small thing, but it's a big thing with March as Women's History Month, is to strike the word manpower and use things like research resources, something like that.
That's good. That's a good catch, Lynn.
That is.
Thanks.
So if somebody who can see it can make it say a sentence that makes sense while taking out the idea that we're supporting we're supporting the full history, and we're supporting further history. I think those are the two threads.
I think we've got it, Anne. I think we've got it. We have two sentences here. I'm going to read them back to you. Because I think we just got what your intent was. I move the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position a fuller, more accurate telling of local and national history is better served by allocation of funds and staffing to interpret the extensive African American history on the post. Appended to this letter will be a summary of the primary source evidence that supports a stronger interpretation of events alternative to that presented in the Naming Commission's report. So I think we got to where you were heading.
That sounds ish. I will defer to the originator of the.
Tom?
I second.
So I guess my one question before we move forward on this is, does it make sense to move this information about the different interpretation than the Naming Commission's report before the allocation of funds? Because we really would like to also advocate for this better research. I'm going to call it the better research of
the more complete research. I see what you're saying. So the first half says we support full research, some of which is appended to this, and we support further research. Two pieces.
Right, and this interpretation. So I feel like it would make more sense if this were up earlier. Taking the position that, let's paste this in here.
That primary source.
Taking a position that primary source evidence supports a stronger interpretation.
Yeah.
So take out the word that.
So that takes out
that.
Take
No, not that.
This.
You've got two
not
that's
this one.
in the sentence. The second that.
I gotcha. Mary's be reevaluated.
Source evidence.
Be reevaluated. Be reevaluated. Is that?
Ooh, that is what you're doing.
I mean, isn't this just two different opinions of the primary source? I mean, what did the Army look at? Did they not look at any primary source information?
They didn't look at anything she found.
No. And look, I have the utmost respect for the Tammy and her research, and I'm not saying that it's not accurate. I'm just saying I don't know, and I don't know what the Army looked at.
I'm going to be quite frank about it. There are things that they knew. For example, the original name was Camp Belvoir, and they intentionally did not include that. There is information on Harold Ickey's involvement that they did not include. Lewis Hurdle's description in the report is that he's a Washington socialite, hiding the fact that he is a Chicagoan, son of immigrants who has connections to Julius Rosenwald. Like all of, like, it's a very curated report that
Okay, well, Tammy,
ignores or shapes the primary
Tammy,
source. Yes.
okay, we do need to cut through this because it
We
is
do.
already
We
after
do.
9:30. So I'm going to suggest that we finish tidying up these two sentences. I think we were almost there, and vote on it. And then it's going to be up to the commission to do a yay or nay or abstain.
Okay.
I
try this.
appreciate
Could I?
more than
could
you
I
could possibly imagine the research that you've done in here. Tom, you have a comment. You made the original motion here.
No, Tammy did.
Tammy did.
Well,
I just
right,
wanted
but-
to propose a simpler alternative, which
Sure.
may address these issues.
Yeah.
Saying that the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position that a full and accurate analysis of research into the history of Fort Belvoir be conducted before a decision is made concerning the name of the facility.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay, now say that again.
Okay.
I love it, Tom. That's fantastic.
That's good. Cuts right through it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
say it again.
All right. I move that the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position that a full and accurate analysis of research into the history of Fort Belvoir be conducted before a decision is made on renaming the facility.
So one sentence. Right?
Yes.
It was
Okay.
one sentence. Okay.
Okay, so one more time. Fill it in.
You want me to read it again?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that the History Commission write a letter to the Board of Supervisors taking the position that a full and accurate analysis of research into the history of Fort Belvoir.
Okay, stop right there and let Tammy get caught up with you. 'cause
Of
she's-
research
Into the
to
history
the history
of Fort Belvoir.
Okay, hang on. Here we go. It's hard to do this when you're under the microscope like this, Tammy. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, full and accurate analysis of research into the history of Fort Belvoir.
Be
What
conducted
comes next?
Be conducted
before a decision is made concerning renaming the facility.
And that would not preclude sending the examples of things you found so they understand there are issues.
All right, I think that's great, and I want to add in here, if we can, that Dee's concept of consulting the descendant community. How do we work that in?
I think that's part of our
Yeah.
research.
I think that's part of the
That a
research.
full
Yeah.
and accurate analysis of
Okay.
research and
Okay, and our letter can stipulate that, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
whoever can.
Yeah.
The motion could with
Yeah.
just a couple words, that a full and accurate analysis of research into both the history of Fort Belvoir and its, how do we want to say this? And its enslaved
and it's
population.
African-American.
How about
Yeah.
to include
And
all
its
pertinent,
and its African American history.
or how about, or all pertinent stakeholders or something of that nature?
I think we really
And the
want
fact is, when you write a letter, when you delegate writing a letter, they do all the right stuff.
That's true. That's true.
Right, everything doesn't in the
Well,
letter.
We're not
doesn't have-
wordsmithing the letter, we're
Yeah.
wordsmithing
And
the
here's the
motion.
thing. And here's the thing is that when we get this done, I nominate everybody who has been helping to craft this to be on the letter writing
Definitely.
That's
Well,
good.
I think, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that makes
Can we
sense.
change the,
So,
can we just change the facility to the post? That's the
Thank
proper
you.
term.
Yeah, I know the post. We got to go the post. Don't call it a base.
No, don't call it a base. It's a
All
Navy,
right.
that's a Navy term.
Post capitalized because we're talking specifically about Belvoir. I don't know. Anyway.
I'm agnostic on that.
Are we there?
Yeah.
I don't know
Tom
if
made the amendment.
Yes.
Is that
I like that.
correct?
Tom made the amendment. It's
Yes.
very good.
And
Very good.
I
Thank you, Tom.
does that, I need to ask you guys, because I think this is a legitimate question. Does that put a strong enough voice to contacting the descendants?
Yeah, I think it does. When we talk about it, an accurate analysis and research, I think
Okay.
that would subsume that.
As
Right, yeah.
historians, we can list those in the letter, what we think is important.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So,
Okay.
so that's the
So-
motion. So we need a second now.
I second.
I second it.
Okay. I'm gonna do an all in favor. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
There we go.
What
All
a
right.
great
is
discussion. That was
fantastic work.
phenomenal.
This is truly,
yes.
truly you all. This
Well,
is,
and then
this is
I really
beautiful.
do, I really do hope that some quality time is spent. Like, for instance, being in touch with the Shiloh Church there, because descendants
Yeah.
know who they are.
I agree.
Believe.
I agree. And I want to say one more thing on this. And I had a little bit of trepidation when I had this conversation with Supervisor Stork. And one of the things that I pointed out is that I said, you know, the History Commission really, really prefers to operate with unanimity. And that's part of why, you know, we've never actually had a motion on this topic with all of the times we've discussed it. And so I really appreciate that this group operates with unanimity. And so just kudos to everybody. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy.
Yep.
All right, deep breath. We are going to try to scoot through this as quickly as we can. I have an updated letter here from Mary and some extraordinarily good news about the AAHI database. So listen up. I've got a copy of this that can come back out, and Elliot, I'll try to make sure to get this out to you too. Phyllis and Mary met with the George Mason University Library staff in reference to the AAHI database, and this note is dated yesterday. I'm sorry, stated, no, it's earlier this morning today. They met with George Oberle, PhD, History Librarian Director, Center for Mason Legacies, and Assistant Term Professor, Department of History and Art History. And then also with Alyssa Farringer, Digital Scholarship Consultant for George Mason University Libraries and their Digital Scholarship Center. The discussion included, in all our advertising communications, we will use the George Mason University logo, not the George Mason University seal. George Mason University would like to have a copy of any flyers we distribute. George Mason University will be engaging in advertising and using the database with George Mason University courses, which I think is fantastic. George Mason University staff will handle any editing, additions, or changes for the database. Mary will be the contact person to send any edits, etc. Mary will send the additions as a group, not one at a time. George Mason University will be responsible for the monitoring and maintenance of the website. For now, the URL will remain as is. We all agreed what a valuable tool the database is. Thanks goes to Barbara Naif, who started the AAHI initiative, and to all the commissioners who helped in the process. We should be proud of our hard work. Okay, so that's all good. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Jordan, is your hand still up?
No, yes, but I didn't intend it. There we go.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. So if there's nothing else on the AAHI, let us go ahead and move on to Cheryl. I think yours is going to be pretty short next. The 2024 budget request and budget updates. We just got a note from Elise today.
So yeah, I'm not familiar with the note from Elise.
She said she'd be on this within the next week. She's
okay,
sick.
awesome. Yeah, yes, that's the
I
only
thought you
reason
were
why I
CC'd
got
on.
involved,
I
was just to
apologize.
make sure that she didn't have to overwork herself. But if she's on it, she is on it.
Yeah,
And I have compiled the information, so I can share that with folks. So.
Okay, perfect, outstanding. All right, on to the list of county history groups project. Subi has done an amazing, amazing job compiling a list that is probably not completely complete. And we have also Gretchen to thank for this, because this was a jumping off point from what was used for the 275th a few years ago. Tammy has done a beautiful job of dividing the history groups into general, statewide, countywide, and the different districts. So, commissioners, your assignment, and you should have a copy of this. I sent it back out. It is a link, a document link back to Subi. Take a look at your district, make sure everything is there that needs to be there for your district. She is using hyperlinks as part of the group title. There should be a contact person, phone number, and email address for who we should contact there. All right, Subi, anything else you want to add in on that? Thank you so much again.
Yeah, no problem. The only thing I want to add is that we are missing Providence and Mason districts, and that when I sent out the reminder about it a week or so ago, I gave a definition of history group. So please follow that. I got some military installations and stuff like that, but if it's not their, if history is not their primary purpose, or even a pronounced secondary purpose, then it's not going to go in. And for places where I wasn't sure where they would fall, I used the address and the location to put them in that, to the corresponding district. This is definitely a work in progress. I am cross-referencing the inventory of historic sites, and I am cross-referencing Fairfax County's GIS system called JADE that Denise very kindly walked me through a few days ago. So thank you.
All right. Okay. I think a round of applause is due. Thank you so much, Subi. Thank you so much. So that was a lot of work with a quick turnaround, and as you said, it is still a work in process. Next committee report would have been Elise on budget and inventory. She's not here tonight, so we will move on to the Fairfax County History Conference. The official date is.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
I think Tammy has an inventory.
Yeah. So I had I
report.
put a status of the Randall Estates inventory nomination.
Oh, I thought we were going to do it. When you and I emailed on this, Tammy, we were going to do it later on in the report. So I'm not forgetting you. I was going to do it
under where were you going to do it?
ARB liaison, where Elise would have done something. But you've taken the floor. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead.
Inventory.
So so we are it's being finalized, the Randall Estates nomination, and we are ready for the committee to meet. And so we are looking for a meeting between February 8th and 16th. And so the members that I have of the inventory committee are Elise, Cheryl, Sue, Jordan, Sally, Ann, and myself. So that is 7 of us, and we have to have a quorum on there to vote. So so anyway, I'm going to reach out to you guys with an email, and we would like to have it between the 8th and the 16th. Are there any bad days, like right off the bat? Are there any bad days? In the range for those folks, we have to have at least 4 of us.
Not the 15th.
Perhaps the 16th for me.
16th? All right, is everybody else good with the 16th?
8th through the 16th. So which day did you ask us to look at?
16th.
So I couldn't make that day.
Are you only asking, Tammy, from the people that you have named, or are you asking from the entire commission?
From the people that I've named, because I assume those are the I assume that I've gotten that right. Did you say that 16th works for you, Jordan?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. Oh, I'm sorry. What about the
Yes, the eighth would be okay, yeah. And that's going to be in the evening, correct?
In the evening, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 7:30, I believe. Okay, so I will send you all an email. Oh, go ahead.
I have a conflict on the 8th.
You do? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll circle around. At least we've got the ball rolling on this. And we'll correct it over email and get the date that most people can make it to. Excellent. All right, thank you very much. That's all I needed.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Tammy. Good, good, good. All right, so I already mentioned that Elise is not here to do budget. History conference, and any committee members from our meeting last week, feel free to jump in when I do a very brief overview of our meeting, which was last week on the 25th. We began with some lessons learned, and from those lessons learned, one of the documents we focused on was the very detailed document from Sue Kovacs-Schumann, saying that, and Sue, I'm just going to do a very light touch on this, since we did in committee go over it in a much greater depth, that the speakers were good. There was an abundance of food. There was too much of it. We talked about the pricings and the ordering and the fact that this was a new Jason's this year. We also talked about that we have now a good journalist in Marcia Hobson who can help us with some PR this year. Our keynote, as you all know, is Tom Gelton, and quite likely a companion to him will be Penny Gross, and much of the happens in the Mason district. A number of us have been tasked with different things. David Myers to reach out to Mark Keem and also confirm Sherwood Community Center. Jordan is going to contact a restaurateur who is an immigrant and located on Route 1. And Cheryl is going to be checking with George Mason, George Mason's immigrant studies program. And I'm going to make a list out of the book of people that might be interesting speakers. So I think that's pretty much what we have. We did a lot of brainstorming the other night, and our next meeting will end up being on the 22nd of February via Teams. Okay. I've got nothing on awards just yet, although I have been contacted by somebody to do a resubmission of one. And Gretchen's not here to do the quincentennial. And Anne, advocacy and annual report.
Yeah, we had a great meeting the other night, and Mary and Phyllis came and presented the AAHI, but they hadn't met with George Oberle yet, so we couldn't really finish our plan of attack for how to get the word out. So we can follow up now that we've got now that we have that information, and Mary has that information. And then we had a long talk about Dunlorne School, which we have reviewed already. We have a couple of events coming up. Chocolate Lovers Festival this weekend. Be there. There will be some of us at the, we have a table going. Thank you, Sue, at the historic records of the historic courthouse. And so right now it's me and Sue and Subi, and I hope that Lynn will be able to stop by. Anybody who's coming or who wants to take an hour or two to sit at the table with us, and or by yourself, depending on the timing, and talk to whatever people show up. I've never been to the Chocolate Lovers Festival, right. And I don't know how many people will end up inside the building, although it's so cold. I hope a lot of people will. I won't bore you with the tablecloth discussion, but the annual report is going to follow last year's model, and I will turn over to Subi to tell you what you're expected.
Thank you, Anne. So Tammy and I are organized for this year. We will follow last year's model. We will follow up by early next week with an email with some specifics. And we have decided to send to the committee chairs their write-up from last year, so you don't have to rewrite things if you don't need to. You can just update as needed. There is one issue that we see that we would like to bring to the commission tonight, and that is that we got one feedback from at least one board of supervisor that who liked our report very much last year, but the concern was that the bio section was too long. So Tammy and I looked at it. The total number of pages for the report was 19, which was, shorter than previous years. Out of that 19, 9 pages were the bios. So which is almost 50%. We had sent out a guidance last year that the bios be limited to 150 words. Some were very good, but some were a little long. So the range was, the shortest one was 86 words and the longest one was 388 words. So if we stick to about 100 words per bio this year, we can reduce the number of pages by 2. So we wanted to hear your thoughts on if you think we could shorten the bios to keep them within 100 words this year. And we need everybody to, this is where we need unanimity.
Subi, I will say this, and I know my bio tends to be longer. We have a hard enough time putting historic information in 100 years for 100 words for a marker. So I would bump that up just a little bit, 100 words, especially for some of the things people do throughout the year, which are amazing. I mean, our commissioners do some pretty amazing things. And just the words Fairfax County History Commission take up a lot of space. So I don't know. I would encourage just a revisit of that, and bringing things down a little bit probably makes some sense too. I do know the opposite I've heard when the reports have been presented is how many of the supervisors, I've been at meetings where people have said, thank you so much for telling us what you all do behind the scenes, because it helps us get to know what you do a little bit better. Okay, Anne, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just wondering if, in the interest of this, we keep them short, and then if people feel strongly that they really can't summarize their brilliance in a short thing, we could have longer ones on the website or something. I mean, really, the most brilliant of us, if you just Google us, it comes out.
That's true. That's true. Well, I know with our new commissioner, just a short piece she sent me last night is barely 100 words, and it doesn't even touch on some of what you'll get to know about her next month. So I just want to be balanced for everybody, and so I don't know. I don't know that we need to make even a motion about this right now.
Well, actually, we do, because when we said we are following last year's model, we're also following last year's timeline. So Tammy and I have our work cut out for us. And mind you, we have other things on our plate as well. So I would like to get a decision made tonight. So if
when do you need the reports from us, Subi? When do you actually need to have them from us?
By February 28th.
Okay, so we'll
need your inputs.
Okay.
But I don't see the benefit of punting the decision to the next meeting. So I don't.
I'm not saying we need to punt it. I'm just asking that we be a little more agile.
Well, yeah. So make a motion, Subi.
So if we keep to the idea of, I like the hybrid approach of if people want a more detailed. So let me give my thought first. Detailed bio, we can have it on the website, because right now we don't. And that maybe for the report, we have, photograph, a name and district, and maybe 100 words. So I move that I move that we have detailed bios in the website and limit the bios in the annual report to 100 words.
Second that.
A second. Did we already have a discussion on it, or does anybody
I
have any
think
other?
we're
comments?
exhausted, to be
I'd
honest.
like
with you.
to, I'd like to say no more than 125 words. Go back to your original 125 and say no more than 125 words.
Okay,
Because I
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
Yeah,
I will
I
tell
think-
you,
I think that's hard.
this will be a short story. There was a commission member who gave me, when I used to do this, gave me a 500-word bio, and he said, I've just done a lot. And I said, that's okay. I need it to be short. I'll be happy to shorten it for you. And he was so appalled that that I would take that on, that he said, oh, no, I'll take care of it. And he cut it down to the bone from his point of view.
All right, very good.
Good motion.
Sue
So
has
one-
something to say.
Oh, I just want to say that I don't have a problem with people editing anything I write. And that in fact, nobody really wants to read everything about us, and we can't put in 100 words what we are all about. So let's give them permission to edit what we give them. Thanks.
I object. If you edit, I do want you to come back to me.
Oh, for
because
sure.
You might change
Yeah, of
it.
course.
You might
Absolutely.
change the
Right.
meaning.
Oh, I
course,
think that's,
absolutely.
and that's, all the
I
more
mean-
reason why everybody, stating this now that it's 125, and then everybody meets it themselves, and nobody needs to edit anybody else's work if they're all 125. It's great. So, all right, so should we call the question?
Yeah, and I'll just say I'll be happy to, help with the website to create a bio section that people can talk about what, more in more elaborate terms.
Great.
That's a nice offer, Cheryl. That's a
Thank
really
you.
nice
That's
offer.
great. Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
All right, so all in
We got a
favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Any abstentions?
Didn't ask for
Oh, yeah.
abstain.
No
I'm
abstention.
abstain. I'm gonna abstain. Okay, so
The motion
motion-
passes. I'll put this in a writing, but by early next week, so you all have the guidance in front of you. Thank you very much.
okay. And I do want to go back a little bit and encourage you all to show up at the Chocolate Lovers Festival. Also, when there are events like Jeff McKay's thank you to volunteers, I really want to encourage you all to attend. I went last week and I thought for sure I'd see some of you there, and I had a nice conversation with Jeff, and it was it was just he and I. So please do make your presence known, because people do notice, and they it's a wonderful time to get caught up and actually conduct some business. All right.
Let's be sure and really tell people about opportunities, because stuff doesn't always come across your desk, and or you don't really see how it relates to you. And I think if we work on reminding people of these relevant events, that'll help us too.
And let me also say, Sue and Anne, the only time I have to stop by and see you is in the morning on Saturday. So you'll be seeing me then. And I thank you, Sue. I think it was your idea to do this.
Yeah.
So
I can't
nice
believe that
opportunity.
someone has not been to the chocolate festival after living here so long. And I got to judge the chocolate festival twice as a food editor. So
Wow,
you just go there. It's wonderful.
it sounds like fun. Okay, anything else, Anne?
No.
Okay, all right. Cheryl, anything on marker project?
So we are proceeding with the Merrifield marker. I'm setting up a meeting for the marker committee to look at the revisions for that marker. And then the marker project, Stephanie has been working really hard on creating write-ups for the 6 selected markers, and we will be reviewing those. Well, not the marker, the specific marker project committee, which is Mary, Phyllis, Barbara, and myself. Will review that at the end of February. And that's it.
That's it. All right, wonderful. Esther. Esther, are you muted? Are you there? Okay. Oh, you're muted, Esther.
I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I had to
That's okay.
walk down the hall.
Okay.
Okay. The Ethnic and Oral History Committee met on January 17th, 2 p.m. by teams. There were 5 members present. And we discussed the state of the committee's work, which is the interviews that we're doing, the oral histories that we're doing that are called Fairfax County Looks Back at the 20th and 21st centuries. So it's delving into the past in oral histories. Suggestions were made to include other people and get more resources for the interview suggestions. Contact is to be made with Supervisor Penny Gross, who has a group called Kaleidoscope.
Are you okay?
That has a number of people in her district that are of different ethnicities. So we will be contacting her. And then it was suggested a Reston lawyer named Edgar Pritchard be contacted to see some of the things that he could help us with, if he would be willing to do an oral history or suggest people in his district. The other thing that we discussed is the timing. We had 5 of 8 members there. And this committee has a history of not having a number of members there to actually take a vote or do any business. So I'm really trying to get some time, some date that we can meet. Our next meeting is proposed for February 21st at 2 p.m. And Cheryl, in particular, is that a bad time for you?
So Esther, my schedule is very shotgun. So I don't have any real regular work hours. So that's one reason why. But the 21st of February is good for me.
Okay, very good. So it was good for the members that were there. The members that I have listed are Tammy, Sally, Cheryl, Ann Barnes, and Stunts, Subi, Janae, and me. Now, did I get this right or wrong? Is there anyone that
I should be on it.
This committee?
I should be on that list too, Esther, and I'm fine with the time, but I also want to alert you that our newest commissioner has done a lot of oral history, so she may take an interest in this.
Okay, so when I send it out, I'll send it out to everyone. So they'll be aware. Other than that, I'm announcing that it's February 21st, which is a Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. So make a note and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
That's perfect. Thank you, Esther.
The members, is there anything I've left off? Keeping it short. looking at the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
I think
that's it.
it's okay.
Thank
Bob,
you.
resident curatorship program. Thank you, Esther.
Yes, I don't have anything else to report beyond what was already reported this evening.
Okay.
Just only one comment. Sue, you sent me an email with a request, and my answer is yes. I will get that worked out with you. I've been a little busy, and I apologize for not answering, but we'll connect up on that. So, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Anne, anything about bylaws?
Yes, we're going to meet on February the 28th at 7:30 p.m. Did you hear me?
Right.
Yeah.
So February
Okay.
28th, 7:30 in the evening.
Yes.
And it's going to be Teams. It's going to be virtual too, right?
It's
Yeah.
going to be what now?
Virtual. Like
it's going to be virtual. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I was going to say, is that the same as advocacy? I don't know if we
No,
have.
I think advocacy is the 23rd. It's that Thursday, the 23rd.
You're
Does
right.
that sound right?
Yes, that's when it is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep, mine is on Tuesday, February the 28th.
Perfect.
Okay.
So
Sounds
Oh, that's
good.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And Elise is not here for the ARB liaison. And David Meyer has a very short little report that he just sent to me. Just one item. He says the 15 streets in the city, in Fairfax City, that had Civil War related, Southern related, Lost Cause related names have been renamed. The new street names became effective on the 1st of January, 2023. So that was quite an accomplishment in the city of Fairfax, for sure. Cheryl, anything website oriented? Thanks for jumping in a few times here with ideas.
No, I have updated. My apologies to Tom for misspelling his last name. And we should now have the correct phone number there, and the December minutes are now up.
Okay, and make sure that we get Julianne on there also. And I think within a week or so, we'll have the name of the new person, the other new person. Okay. All right. Any announcements?
Lynn, I just wanted to add that Cheryl, Mason District is missing in the list of commissioners on the website, and lead district should be called Franconia.
Oh, good.
Right.
yes.
Right. Good catch. Good catch.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'll I don't understand. Oh, so Mason is missing because Barbara left. So who is replacing Barbara?
We can say vacant.
Just the new commissioner, Cheryl is.
Oh yeah, you'll get a new one.
Yeah, Julianne, and
Julianne is Mason.
Yep. And so, and trust me, she'll be all over that. She's a very energetic person. She's already joined Tammy's book club. Okay. All right. Anything else, Cheryl?
No, that's it.
That's it. That's okay. All right. Sally Lyon's hand is up. Yes.
Two announcements. Carol Herrick is going to give a presentation to the Mount Vernon Regional Historical Society on Sunday, February 19th at the Mount Vernon Government Center, which is Dan Stork's offices. I believe on the War of 1812, but she has free latitude. The second notice is the symposium is coming up, the annual Archaeological Symposium, Gunston Hall, FOFA, and the Archaeology and Collections branch. And this year it is on cemeteries, the archaeology of cemeteries, and I'll be sending out information to everybody on this, but it will be March 4th, Saturday. That's it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that last month too. That's great.
I have a question.
And it's at Gunston Hall, right, Sally?
It is at Gunston Hall, yes. And you can register on the website. If you go to their website, I believe everything is up for it.
And it was excellent last year. They did one of the best hybrid conferences I've ever been to.
Wasn't that good?
Really successful.
I'm glad. I hope we have more people in person this time, but we've got some really great speakers. So
Sounds like it. Yeah, you've got Patrick and Amy, right? Are they two of
Yes.
your speakers?
some outstanding people from Williamsburg and and Shaco Slip in Richmond.
Okay. All right. Any other announcements? Oh, Esther's hand is up.
I have a question. I know we got a letter or a note from Mary about AAHI. Are they invited? Are they aware of the Board of Supervisors event?
I think so.
You're talking about the event on the 7th,
Yes.
recognizing the markers. Yes, they are aware of it.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Sure.
Yeah,
No.
it's a good question. Good question. Okay, somebody else's hand was up. Bob Beach, your hand is up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just two things, or one, however you want to count it. In November, the Turning Point Suffragist Memorial won 2 design awards.
Wow.
One with the Fairfax Exceptional Design Awards, and the other was with the NAOP Awards, Excellence in Design, and that's the National Association of Industrial and Office Parks. They created community enrichment slot, I guess, and the memorial fit into it. So there you go. Anyway,
Congratulations.
for those
Congratulations, Bob.
Hey, the memorial one, not me.
Well, yes, but somebody had to
you.
design it. Somebody had to design it.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Anne, is your hand up?
Not mine. Did I do something?
It looked like you were raising your hand.
It looks like
Okay.
Tom's hand is up.
I'm just pawing my machine here.
I can't see everybody, so help me with this. Is Tom?
Yeah, this is just more of an announcement of a personal nature. Just as of today, I am under contract with UVA Press to publish my book on ILDA.
Yes. Oh, excellent. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And kudos for being quiet about it all night. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. I'm sure Mary Lips is going to be happy about that. That's good.
Being quiet is not my strong suit.
Well, you're good at initiating motions, and look what you did.
You are. Yeah, you're on
What's
fire.
the title of your book?
My working title for it is "You've Got to Move," which is the title of an African American spiritual. But the marketing department at the press apparently gets the last word on titles for their books.
Oh,
So it's only called Hilda? Is that the title of it?
No, the title is my working title is "You've Got to Move."
Right.
I like it.
What will it say on the book?
That's up to their marketing department.
Okay. All right, folks. We went way over our intended limit here, and I think we had yet another rich and robust conversation. There was a lot of participation. Do want to encourage you when you come to make a presentation to the commission to do some pros and cons and help kind of hold our hand as so we can walk through the kind of decisions that you need to have us make. I think that would be helpful also. But Tammy, you obviously have your heart and your soul in this. That was apparent last March when you spoke to us about this. And we hope we've given you something that's going to be meaningful and certainly a fine reflection of the commission. So thank you all for stretching. I've got a very early program to teach in the morning, and so I've got a lot of homework yet to do tonight. But thank you all for staying the course, and My golly, we're close to still almost 31 people
Good meeting.
here as part of this. So thank you, and we will see you all again. We're going to have meetings on the 1st of the month for a while. 1st of March will be our next meeting for the Fairfax County History Commission, and I'm counting on it being a Teams meeting as well. All right. So thank you guys. Pat yourself on the back for a job well done, and have a good week.
Good meeting. Thank you.
Good night.
Good meeting, everybody.
All
Great
right.
job.
Welcome, new members.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah.
Stephanie, you still here?
Or whatever. Yes, yes.
I can't believe they all hung up. Did they hang up? I don't know.
I don't know. I can't tell.
I'll see you on Monday.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.